Welcome back to Echo Ridge and another episode here in our Max Colonization series. We left off in the last episode running out of calories. Lucky for us, we're back up to 16,000 calories thanks to the smoker finishing up some veggie poppers. And I've also planted the last 3 of the sweat corns. We remember from an earlier episode we did the math, and since we are smoking the sweat corn for the veggie poppers, every set of 3 can support 2 duplicants. We've also got our lum coming online. You can see that this little guy is happy. Once I get the vines going out further, we'll throw another lum in there, and then we'll have a renewable source of peat, which is important because we need it for the sweat corns, and we can use the peat as a intermediate power source. Speaking of which, I should probably grab the peat burner here in internal combustion, just in case we do want to rely on the peat power, although it does make a swampy mess producing polluted water and carbon dioxide. Right now, I'm still doing some exploring, trying to unearth the rest of the vents and geysers that we've found, and this is important. Oh, wait a minute, is this one going to get erased? Oh, it might. This is exactly where Demolier comes down, so even if it is something nice, I don't think it'll last. But the reason why I'm doing that is because I need to figure out where our oxygen is coming from. I know some of you have expressed the desire to use the jawbones to rust deoxidizer as a source of oxygen, but as you saw from the math last time, it just really isn't that great. Now, we'll eventually be ranching the jawbones to get some of that sweet iron ore, but as far as oxygen production goes, it's not a great source. Now, we might be able to use it temporarily, but if I'm going to set up an oxygen supply, I'd rather have one that's going to last the test of time. Now, we could send this polluted water through a water sieve and then that water into a standard spawn, but I'm a little worried about the cooling. Yeah, we could use the polluted water and cycle it around the oxygen, but considering this water is already 33 degrees and it erupts at 30, it's a little too close for comfort. Remember, our sweat corns can only go up to 40 degrees, so I'd rather try to find a better source of cooling. Yeah, there are several biomes here that are cold that we can send the oxygen through to cool down, but again, I'd rather set it and forget it. Unfortunately, our digger is still recovering from the evil crab attack, but we've relocated his egg. Sorry, buddy. That's on you. We've also found our first bits of meat. Unfortunately, you can't use meat inside of the smoker, only the tough meat, so I do need to put an electric grill up. It won't be our primary source of food, but we will be able to make some barbecue when we do find some meat. And oh my goodness, how long has that been happening? A significant portion of time. Wonderful. We're down to 1,700 calories again. The smoker is working on the next batch of veggie poppers. I'm not getting the UI indication of how long it has remaining. Normally there's a little status bar, but we are good to start making some barbecue. It takes 3,200 calories worth of meat, which we're not there quite yet. We could also start making some toasted mimolette out of the butterfly seeds, but I really don't want to start using those because when you need to plant them, you need a seed. Well, doesn't this figure? The geyser up here is a water geyser. I'm not even going to try to tap into this. First of all, it's at 95C. Second, it's going to be destroyed by the asteroid anyways. Well, the UI indicator's back, and that's really good because we're out of calories. We have 1 starving dupe. Oh, you're fine. You still have 1,000 calories to go. Hopefully everybody doesn't eat your share of the veggie poppers. We do have the emulsifier finished, and here's our recipe for biodiesel. Once again, we are waiting for the phyto oil though, but we're still filling up this cavity with polluted water. Matter of fact, I probably can get away with 5, so I will do something like that, which will raise the level of the polluted water just a little bit. The smoker finished, and I don't see any of the veggie poppers. Did it need to be reset? What's going on, Andy? Apparently the smoker's broken. There we go. Andy just had to bang on the smoker to let the veggie poppers out. The smoker sort of opened first, so it made me think that the food would just pop out of it. Andy had to bang on it first. We got 8,000 calories and another batch of veggie poppers coming up soon. And we do have 7 mimolette seeds, which turn into 1,500 calories each, so we'll just queue up like 3 of these. Toasted butterfly seeds, anybody? We're just about to discover what this geyser is, but I see some bleachstone off-gassing, so we're going to sweep it up. It'll be stored up here and no longer off-gas. The chlorine makes everything a pain. Yeah, they already can't breathe very well down here, but the eye irritation from the chlorine is not great. Well, I can't grab another dupe because, you know, that whole oxygen thing, not to mention the whole calorie thing. The game's trying to give us more Pacu. That's 16 Pacu in the last few pods. And we'll eventually end up with a Pacu and Jabo ranches, but now is not the time. And this ended up being, I can see it. Let me highlight over it. Any guesses? Some of our wishes have come true. This is a cool slush geyser, producing polluted water at minus 10°C. Now that we can use for cooling. In fact, not only can I use it for cooling, I could also use it for some metal refinery work. So why don't I go ahead and let that thing breathe. We'll also get down here and dig all this out. It won't be a very big tank. I need it to go a little bit deeper. Oh, not to mention, I need to mop all that up first too, because I don't want to mix. Oh, it's going to be such a mess. There's brine ice all over the place here. Well, let's try to stop up all the gaps where the brine ice is. And I suppose I'll do a nice brine storage. I haven't found a brine geyser that I could just throw that ice towards. So this little spot here will be fine. And I think that's the only sources of ice in here. So I don't have to worry about it contaminating. Oh no, there's another one right there. It'd be really nice if we could hurry with this process though. And some of you might be wondering, does it matter? The polluted water is going to erupt at minus 10°C. Won't that be cold enough to keep the brine frozen? Unfortunately, no. Brine ice turns into brine at minus 16.5. What if I just mixed the polluted water vent and the cool slush geyser? That might actually be a better solution. Then I could make a big tank and potentially a spalm around here. Granted, we're not even close to having all the research we'll need for that. And then again, I do want to store this water separately so I can use it for metal refinery work. Up in our brine storage, I can select brine ice on the automatic dispenser and set it to sweep only. There's also a little bit of regular ice down there, so I will set up another one for standard ice to go into this tank. And if I'm going to be using this area for a spalm, it's time to clean it out. So we're going to have quite a lot of digging to be able to do to make this place usable. Can I deconstruct this? Yes, I can. I'll drop all the salt water down here and deal with it later. All right, let's give the dupes a few minutes to start working on this. This is absolutely ridiculous. I need a demolitions expert to remove a light fixture? Come on. We're not even close to having demolition. Josh Manchester will be the one, but we're still 2 skill points away. Well, Piercer, what did you do here? There's a little bit of oxygen. You should be fine. At least until we get 3 more ladders done. Hold your breath, buddy. People are coming. Or I can just build a sedimentary rock ladder because you're hurting. Here you go, buddy. That wasn't so bad, huh? You didn't even miss a bathroom break. Next pod came up and we are going to grab the omelets. I'm still not willing to grab another dupe. And the omelets will help fend off the munchies in between the veggie poppers coming out of the smoker. But we're down to 12 tons of algae. So oxygen is definitely not included right now. On our skills front, we had a smattering of skill points to assign, but the most important one was the fact that 270 now has pyrotechnics, which we will definitely put them in their sweet new pyrotechnics hat. So while we don't have the production cycles up yet, we can now use the blast shot maker. Oh, there's some more algae in here that we are definitely going to grab, because after those few spots right there, it gets really dire. I am going around and getting every last tile, so I know exactly how much time I have left. The vent down here in the south ended up being a cool steam vent. We will eventually tap that, but we don't have the tech to be able to do it right now. We have also found some magma, and so far that is about it. Still some more exploration needed to be done on the southwest and southern parts, but considering there's only 1 tile remaining, well, at least in the immediate vicinity, there are a few more in the very far north and then a little bit of algae down here, but either way, we are cutting it close. We're up to 14 tons of algae. I'd really like to get demolition unlocked because these light fixtures in this table are going to be posing a problem if I planned on putting a spawn here. But we're almost done with the primary digging. I'm going to be storing all the salt water down in this little cavity, no big deal. And then I have some sweeping to do over here, so I can build a tank for the cold polluted water and then a tank for the warm polluted water. Stress is probably going to go up considering how much chlorine gas is here. but we're almost finished. I'm thinking that we should also continue the ladder rung down. I don't love this because the further this ladder rung is down, anytime they're traveling up here and drop it, it's going to fall all the way down here, but definitely not going to be a primary ladder shaft. At least I don't think so. We'll see how that ends up. I'll put this on a priority of 4. Definitely not in a hurry to do that, but the more exploration, the better. I have been knocking out more of the research for the SPOM. We're going to go to low resistant conductors so we can get our hands on the heavy watt conductive wire and the conductive wire. We already got the smart batteries, and now it's about time for me to queue up some gold. We have found 4.7 tons, and I don't see why we cannot convert all of that. Man, it would be so much better to do this in a metal refinery. That way I get 4.7 tons back of refined. So yeah, I'm not going to crush it. We'll set up a metal refinery once I get this place going. For being geoactive, I'm really not impressed with the amount of vents and geysers on this planetoid. Maybe it's because we've gotten a few junk ones with the infectious polluted oxygen vent, the carbon dioxide geyser, and I'm sure I'm still missing a few. So far, our sources of water are going to be the saltwater geyser, the cool steam vent, and these 2 polluted water vents, one being the cool slush geyser. So we have plenty of water, but we only got 1 volcano, no metal volcanoes to speak of yet. So that jawbo producing the iron ore might be even more valuable than we expected earlier. And then I just realized this whole time I could have made this process so much easier, or at least quicker, if I would have added a fire pole. But that sort of cements this being a primary transport route, and this is not how our base is going to look. I'll wait until low resistant conductors finishes up, and then I'll double back for refined renovations to grab the fire pole. Now I need to figure out something to do with these dartles. We have plenty of dartles around the map, so when we do start ranching them, we'll be able to find them again, because right now, they're just brine ice making machines, and that is not good for us. Just making sure, yes, we do have other dartles. That would be bad if I made the dartles go extinct. Now here, I want to start allowing all this out. There's still a little bit of ice, but I have it being swept. But now I can start on this tank. I could go insulated tiles to help keep some of its chill in. I think that's probably a good idea. And I'm going to go as far down as here. In fact, it doesn't need to even be that high. And we'll go straight across. Yeah, that should be good for what we're looking for. No, 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 Jesse. You're about to get stuck. Come out. Ooh, that was a little close. This geyser, I don't necessarily believe needs to be in its own tank. The top one we're going to use in its tank because I'm going to use that cold water. But this one, I can just take the water out, turn it into regular water. Has anybody seen Josh Manchester? These are all their dig commands. Josh is the only one that can do them. Thank you, buddy, for coming to work. There are no crabs here, I promise. So I think what I'm going to do is just dig down in here and start building it out. I got to move some of this out of the way. And then we'll put a nice pump in here. Nickel or gold or iron ore. Guess we have 400 kilos worth of nickel, so I'll put that there. I'm also going to want a hydro sensor, which I don't have any of that automation yet because it's a polluted water vent. More on that here in a little bit. All of that work. And we still ended up with some brine in here. Please tell me we can mop that. There's more ice in here. Oh, probably because of these silly dew drippers. We'll make those go the way of the dodo and not have to worry about them. At long last, the fire pole is complete. We will use the nickel again. And I don't think we're going to make this go the whole way, but at least down to this point. And that should help some of the commutes. I mean, seriously, take a moment and look at what kind of dumpster fire this is. The fact that we've been able to keep all of these liquids separated, and for the most part, all the chlorine away is one of the best things we have going for ourselves right now. And the reason why we're only sitting at 1% stress. Oh, it looks like we're ready for our second lum. There we go. And we are starting to produce lum eggs, which means I need to get yield egg cracker. Next up on the research, we're going to grab the metal refinery. And from there down to automation, we're going to go all the way over to, suppose we'll grab timer sensors since we're here. That'll give us the automation wire, and then I'll grab improved plumbing for the hydro sensor and the liquid reservoir. Having 2 researchers on the colony this early is definitely going amazing, although I think I would have preferred to have 2 diggers. We definitely cannot grab a dupe because we're down around 10 tons of algae, I believe, but the plum squash seed definitely gives us some potential. Whether or not we end up using it, I don't know, but there are no squash seeds on this planetoid. Before I can continue with our next step, I also need to analyze this polluted water vent. This area is coming together a little bit. Oh, we get some pressure damage here because of this. All right, let's go relieve the pressure. It's 1,500 kilos worth of polluted water in there. And maybe we can mop that? Of course, too much liquid. But the reason why we need to analyze it is so I can figure out how much polluted water we need to store to ensure that we're getting the most polluted water out of this vent as possible. The reason why we have the hydro sensor in here is if you let a polluted water vent get down to one layer, well, then it's going to start off-gassing. When it does, it'll create polluted oxygen, which it's not such a huge deal, especially in this setup, but I think it looks clean, and the hydro sensor will give us an ability to turn it off and on. And the shale tile finally gave up and burst, so we lost all of our beautiful cold water. I'll start analyzing this one after we analyze this one. This one's a little bit more difficult because they have to hold their breath. Hopefully the cool slush geyser's not going dormant anytime soon. Back over in Lum land, our egg cracker is complete, so we need to start cracking the Lum eggs. Now, they produce a lot of raw egg at 6,400 calories apiece, compared to that to, say, a dartle, which only produces 1,600 calories. Well, we're going to be able to take all that raw egg and turn it into omelets, so we'll probably end up cutting back a little bit on the sweat corn. But as it stands, we're sitting at 56,000 calories, and please tell me I'm not harvesting these. Oh, goodness. You're not supposed to harvest these because they are all for the lums. No wonder we have 18,000 calories worth of overgrow figs. The polluted water vent has been analyzed, so we can start on the second one. But here's where the good math comes into play. Oh, wow, it's going to dormancy in 11.5 cycles. But now that we have the polluted water vent analyzed, we have the numbers that we need. The first thing we need to take a look at is how often it erupts, when it's in its active period. To do that, we take the 301 seconds and divide it by the 590 seconds, and we're given about 51%. We then take that 51% and multiply it times the active period of 68.2 cycles, and this will give us 34.79. In other words, during its active period of 68.2 cycles, it'll be consistently erupting for 34.8 cycles. Well, we know there's 600 seconds in every cycle, so we multiply the 34.79 times 600 seconds, and we're given 20,876. That's a lot of seconds, especially considering for every second that it is erupting, it's going to be doing it at 9.6 kilos per second. So we multiply the 20,876 times 9.6 kilos, and we get a total output of 200,410 kilos. In other words, when this polluted water vent is erupting, it's going to produce a total of 200,410 kilos. That's how much we would need to be able to store to make sure it never goes over pressure, like it is right now. Well, we can store those in buffer tanks that hold 5 tons. So we divide the 200,410 by 5 tons, and we get 40. So if I wanted to store all that water, I would need to put down 40 buffer tanks. I'm not building 40 buffer tanks. For one, they require 400 kilos worth of an ore, and for two, that's just too many. What I could do is sort of buffer tank inception. We know we need to store 200 kilos. Well, another way of doing that is to build a big tank like this. And as you can see, this would be about 200 kilos worth, considering every tile can hold about a ton of water. But if I built buffer tanks for half of that, in other words, 20 buffer tanks, then I would only need a storage area of about 100 tiles. Now I know what you're thinking, why don't I just combine these? Well, again, it's because I want this water to stay as cold as possible because we're going to be using it for our metal refinery. Alternatively, I could just build the tank this way and then start packing in some buffer tanks, and I think that's actually what we're going to do. I'll probably still leave this into place for future use, but for now I think this is going to work considering how much space it really does require. So once again, time for more building. And this time I am not going to use insulated tiles. In fact, I'm just going to replace all of these. I don't mind if 30-degree weather comes out here, so we'll duplicate our efforts like this. After I right-sized it to our natural floors, I definitely didn't miscount anywhere up here. we now have a tank that can hold about 200 tons worth of polluted water. Additionally, we could do the bufferception and start putting down a bunch of these, being even more efficient by using mesh tiles, which I have not researched yet, but for now this will work well. The analysis on the cool slush geyser is finished, and you can see it has about half the average output, which I really don't care because I'm only using this water for chill, not necessarily for the water itself, at least at this state, which means we can put in our wonderful metal refinery right now. I will use igneous rock just because we have plenty of it. It's never going to overheat in this area. It is nice and cold. Unfortunately, I am still on wheel power. Not too big of a deal. I'll just put 2 wheels in here. Oh, wait a minute. They need to be rustic manual generators. We're also going to need our liquid pump. I'm going to draw the cold water from over here since the geyser is more centered over to the left, which means this water is naturally going to be colder. And then I'll dump all of the polluted water coming back out right here. And it will sort of look like this, except a little bit cleaner. I've queued up the last bit of metal that we will have to refine at the rock crusher. I need it for the conductive wire. Because the metal refinery requires 1200 watts, I'm going to have to use conductive wire for this network, which it's going to take more than we actually have. And I don't think we'll be on manual generators for much longer. And I don't plan on refining that much metal, just sort of our bare minimum to get us going. First for the SPOM, and then possibly for the refined metal requirements for the intercosmic blast shot. Now we're creating a real mess. Oh no, you're doing the thing again, aren't you? Please stop running on the wheel for nothing. But now that we're creating a huge polluted oxygen mess, we have chlorine everywhere. I think the only place I'm going to protect is the main part of the base. So I'm going to add a deodorizer right down here, just in case some of that polluted oxygen starts to creep up. I mean, there is a lot of it down here. Luckily, it is cold, so the germs aren't able to penetrate here. They are here, but I don't plan on being here after we get this thing dug out. I am going to put a liquid pump here at the very bottom of this completely temporary tank. This will end up being our ingest water for the SPOM, and this will be used as our coolant. Digging down here, this ladder well, and for our polluted water buffer tank, we have discovered the bees. Unfortunately, I don't see any Saturn critter traps, which makes me very sad. I'm playing a playthrough with the prehistoric DLC over on Twitch, and my bee biome had a bunch of Saturn critter traps, which I was able to use for hydrogen. Saturn critter trap eats the bees, releases the hydrogen, and then I power my colony for entirely too long using hydrogen generators and a giant hydrogen spine that goes up the center of the colony, which is an absolute wonderful renewable power supply. Unfortunately, I don't see any here. There might be some over here, but there's also a bunch of magma in the way, so we're not going to be digging over there. Incidentally, I did not discover the source of where this sour gas came from. I know sour gas makes people happy, but this is all you're getting. It was just randomly here. And oh my goodness, there's more in here too. There's no abyssalite break. But since when did we start getting free sour gas everywhere? Well, our industrial era is complete. We have a metal refinery and we're able to start refining metals. We could even throw a kiln in here, chop up some lime, and start creating steel too. We'll probably use this area for a couple of 100 cycles, especially considering the cool slush geyser is going to keep it pretty cool. I'm not going to start refining metal immediately. We have another 17 cycles until this vent goes dormant. So I'm going to try to get as much of that nice and cold water in here before I start cycling it through the metal refinery. All said and done, we have 6.8 tons worth of algae left. So you know 100% the next episode is going to be a SPOM episode. Oh no, what is that? I'm going to get out of here before there's more chaos, which is going to keep this episode going longer. I'm looking forward to reading your comments below. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.